What is going on, guys? Carter here with Edge Mindset Real Talk video. I want to get this out there. My channel is going to be changing in terms of the type of knives that I feature more prominently and the things I talk about and things like that. So why am I making this video? Because I know some of you are sitting here like, you don't have to announce this stuff, do you? Do what you want to do. If I want to watch, I'll watch. If I don't want to. Part of it is, I'm a content whore. I've got to drum up content. So any sort of knife-related topics that cross my head, I have to at least consider, should that be a video? And in this case, I decided to make it a video. The reason number two is it's kind of an effort to, if I put it out there, if I put it out into the world, I feel like I might commit to it more. It's one of those things, as annoying as it is when people announce like lifestyle changes, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to get in shape, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And you're kind of like, dude, just do it. Do you? You don't have to tell everybody what you're doing. And some of it is trying to get attention and things like that. But a lot of it is trying to hold yourself accountable. If you announce it to people, in your brain, you're kind of thinking, other people know that I've committed to this, and other people are, at least in some capacity, going to be holding me accountable to making it happen. And I don't know. I think the goal is to do that. So that's what I'm doing here. So how is my channel going to be changing? I am going to be featuring more budget knives. I've done it a little bit. Well, my channel started like way back in the day. I was a normal knife person where I bought reasonable knives that you could carry and use and were reasonably priced and all those things. And then I quickly got obsessed with custom knives and high-end knives and all kinds of things and kind of went off the rails. And then I got older and I kind of I'm using correct choice of words here. I had more access to money. I'm not going to say I had more money. I had access to money. And that just made it all the more wild with all the things that, I started buying, which you've seen on my channel, right? If you looked at my channel over the last couple of years, you might think I am an oil tycoon or, I come from some legacy United States. Look at that tip, man. That is wicked. Some legacy, like, I don't know, Johnson & Johnson money or something. And that is not the case. I've done reasonably well for myself over the last 4 years or so, but by no means am I rich. And there's, I don't need to dive too deep into it, but there's definitely some pressure on me constantly that I really should not be buying the things I'm buying. And, it's just in general, it's just not good. I'm just chasing that dragon, chasing that thrill of like the next big hit, the next big grail. And more, I'm starting to find myself getting these quote unquote expensive grails and not being actually all that excited about them anymore. Some yes, some no. Like, I unboxed the knife the other day, which I don't think I've uploaded at the point of this video, that should have been jaw-dropping to me, floored me, amazing, and it really kind of didn't. It's a pretty lackluster unboxing. In fact, I might not even upload it at all. And it's also, though, the cost of the knife is like I can't bring myself to carry it and use it. Like, as much as I want to be like the carry and use expensive custom knives, I don't come from an affluent enough background to do that, to do that to something of that cost. And so I want to get back to my roots. I want to get back to, and not always, I don't mean like dirt cheap knives, but get back to knives that I feel comfortable carrying and using, and that I'm not buying as like some, my old excuse of like, well, you can buy this expensive knife and it's going to hold its value, and it's like transferring money into a physical asset. It's not really getting rid of the money and stuff like that. And there's some truth to that, but that's a dumb excuse. Ultimately, I need to get back to buying knives where if I lost the knife, I wouldn't be devastated. And if something happened in my life that was negative, I wouldn't feel, it wouldn't be something that I'm like, oh, I've got to liquidate these. Like I've got, all these knives and, a lot of, all these are very, very expensive. And in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking like, oh, if crap hits the fan and whatever, I got to sell these and I can pull the money out. And on one hand, that's cool. It's cool to think that there's, on this table alone is a substantial amount of money. And it's kind of cool knowing I could get some of that back, but it's also hard because the knife market is volatile and things aren't worth what they used to be worth. All those kinds of things. And you never know what you're going to get, and you can't count on it. And it would be much better if I just had this in liquid cash. Anyways, I'm going off the rails here. It is going to be hard, though, because like a lot of things, once you've kind of dabbled in higher-end knives and the exclusivity and the cool kids club, it's really hard to kind of go back. And I've tried before. I've tried to shift my knife buying into more reasonable territory and bought things more quote unquote practical and things like that. And it's hard, right? Because you're always, you're comparing, right? When I get this Kubi knife here, which I actually really like this one, Bravo 1, designed by Mikkel Willemsen. Had this out for another video. It's a takedown video. I really like this one, but, like compared to this BPU XM24 from Hinderer, it's hard to get super stoked about it, and it's hard to be super excited about it. But anyways, so that's part of the reason, right? I've got to wrangle it in because I am not, I'm pretending. I am really not this guy. I really have no business owning stuff like this. I really don't. I honestly do not have any business having a knife collection of stuff like this. Now, that doesn't mean I can't have a few special pieces. And I've always had that thought, and that is A-okay, and I'm going to continue with that. The problem is my quote-unquote special pieces has turned into a full collection. I remember when, I would get really anxious. Like if I had a couple Marfion Customs, it would make me, like when I was almost exclusively buying like Marfions. Right now, this is the only one I have. It would make me really anxious to have that much tied up in like a hobby in knives, and it would give me anxiety, and I'd want to offload them. And I would pick, this is my Marfion Custom, this is my Strider Custom, and I've lost that over the last year, and it's kind of just grown and grown and grown. And so, long story short, TLDR, which doesn't even matter because we're 8 minutes in, I am going to, for like general knife reviews and getting new stuff, I am going to be focusing on more affordable knives. Not that this is in that category necessarily, but I'm going to be focusing on more affordable knives, more practical knives, more accessible knives. Doesn't mean I'm not going to have special pieces, but I am going to be reducing my special pieces down to kind of like I mentioned, picking, maybe four. That's it. Maybe that's my limit. I'm going to commit to that. 4 expensive special pieces, 4 customs, whatever you want to call them. And that's it. And I can't have a collection of mixed Strider customs. Like I can't do it. I can't have a collection of Marfion customs. I can't have a collection of super expensive Hinders. And that also means like production knives. Like I used to be so much better. Way back in the day at, to get something, I had to sell something. And for a long time, I had this rule of, I got Pelican cases. I had this rule of I would only have one Pelican case of quote unquote nice knives, right? Not junkers. I got junkers in drawers and stuff like that, and knives that are in pieces and things like that. But I used to only have one Pelican case, and as soon as that got too full, I had to sell stuff. And then I made the mistake of buying a second Pelican case, and then buying a third Pelican case. And it just very quickly got out of control. So, yeah, just a quick announcement. And I guess I feel like giving a heads up on this stuff might make it less shocking. I don't know. I don't know, because part of it is, like, I built a community and a following base on this kind of stuff, right? Like this is kind of my niche, right? the only ridiculous expensive knives channel, and I've been reasonably successful lately for me, on it. Not like objectively successful, but for my channel history, I've probably had the best average views of long form videos doing stuff like this. And that's part of the reason I've tried to keep it going, but I can't. It's unsustainable. I can't do it. Like I can't do it. I've had some stuff sent to me, but by no means, like all of these, I paid full price. I paid full price retail on this. I paid above retail on this. Like I'm not getting these sent to me. It is, anyways. Yeah. So that is the heads up. I'll be focusing more on budget knives and things like that, and maybe just trying different forms of content. And I'm kind of saying this out loud because I know my views and stuff are going to take a hit. I know I'm going to get a lot of negative comments about showing China stuff. And, a lot of people follow me just for the Striders, and they're probably, a lot of them are going to leave. But that's okay. That's okay because I still like making content and still love knives. So, all right, guys. That's it. Most of this was literally me just talking to myself. I just happen to have the camera on. Me working through my brain. Here's the other thing. All right, I know I was going to leave. Here's the other thing, and I'm trying to figure out how to navigate this, is, you get into the gray area. It's one thing to put like some arbitrary cap on a knife to be like, I will never spend more than this on a knife. I know some people do that with success. They're like, $400 is my max. I will never spend more than $400 on a knife. And it sounds good until you see that really nice knife for $425, and you're like, okay, $25, I'm not going to get it. But then if you do get it, then all of a sudden you're like, what about the knife that's $450? Like where does that end? And then I also have the problem where if I do an arbitrary cap like that, and let's say I'm like $600, I'll never spend more than $600 on a knife going forward. I look at my collection and I've got 4 $300 knives, and I'm like, so I can't sell those and get the $700 knife, which is actually less money than those 3, or not get those 3. You know what I mean? Anyways, there's a lot of gray area with these things, and that's what gets me into trouble. When I look at my collection, but for the most part, I have to tone things down. And the other thing, right? Sorry, this is so rambling. The other thing that I know when I'm kind of running into trouble is when I get a knife that's kind of less expensive than some of these real expensive knives that I get. And I like it as much or sometimes more than the expensive knife. I've had, I don't know if I have a good example here, but I've had knife deliveries where in one box is some crazy expensive custom knife. Let's pretend it's like this Strider Batwing right here. And then in the other box is a more moderately priced knife. Like maybe not a full-on budget knife, but a couple $100, $300, maybe even up to $400. Yeah, let's say the Chavez, right? Chavez knives. The integrals that I got recently, I really, really like those, especially the El Chicano. And I'm looking at it, and on one hand, I've got one box where that knife is 4 times the cost of the Chicano, but I actually am digging the Chicano more. I'm putting the Chicano in my pocket, the Chavez in my pocket. I'm carrying it, and then the other knife just goes right into a padded foam for me just to kind of look at every once in a while. And it kind of makes me wonder, why? Why am I doing that? This doesn't make any sense. Like, if I'm not carrying and enjoying this knife, why am I buying it? And I know some of you are like chiming up right now, and they're like, yeah, we tell you that on every one of these videos. I get that comment all the time, in one form or another. Usually they're pretty mean-spirited, but they're not coming from like a helpful place. They're coming from a talking crap on me for buying things that I'm not carrying and using and stuff like that. But there's a lot of truth to that. And it's just from an enjoyment factor, but it's this weird addiction to like chasing that grail, that ultimate grail. And and chasing grails is actually really great. And it's a very fundamental, cool part of the hobby. The problem is when you don't set boundaries and have the patience, when you don't say, okay, that's the knife I want. As soon as I save up some money, and then one pops up for a screaming deal, I'll jump on it. If you're more like me and you're kind of like, well, if I'm going to get it anyways, I might as well just make it happen now. Move this, pull money from here, do that, quickly sell maybe this to get some of it, and then you grab it, and then you don't get that delayed kind of thing. You immediately get it, and then you go on to the next grail and the next grail, and before you know it, you've got a case full of grails, and you're like, why did I do this? All right, I really got to stop this video now. I could keep rambling and ranting about this because this is something that plagues my brain a lot, that I've kind of struggled with to the point where I've contemplated just, do I have to completely exit the hobby? Like, if I can't get this under control, do I have to completely disconnect? Which I don't want to do because I really like this community. I really like making content, but I'm to the point where I have to really make some tough decisions. If I can't wrangle it in, I have to step away. And that's really, really hard to face. All right. Yeah, cool. Hope you guys have a good day. I will talk to you later on my next video. Thanks for tuning into Edge Mindset. My name is Carter. I am your host, and I appreciate all of you. Take care.